The small town of Pine Grove woke up to shocking news on a cold September morning in 2001. 16-year-old Sarah Miller had disappeared from her home during the night. Her parents, Tom and Linda Miller, found her bedroom window open and her bed empty when they went to wake her for school. Sarah was a quiet girl with long brown hair and shy eyes. She kept to herself at Pine Grove High School, where she was a junior. Her teachers described her as smart but withdrawn. Few students claimed to know her well. The Millers called the police immediately. Officer James Brady arrived at their modest two-story house within minutes. He walked through Sarah's room, noting the missing backpack and some clothes. A short note sat on her desk. "I need to find my own way. Please don't look for me." "She's never done anything like this before," Linda told Officer Brady, her hands shaking as she held a framed photo of Sarah. "She's always been such a good girl." Tom stood by the window, his face hard with worry. Someone must have taken her. Sarah wouldn't just leave. The police searched the house and yard but found no signs of forced entry or struggle. Sarah's diary was missing, along with some cash from her savings jar. All signs pointed to a planned departure. News of Sarah's disappearance spread quickly through Pine Grove. The town had only 5,000 people, and nothing this troubling had happened in years. Neighbors formed search parties. They walked through the woods behind the Miller house, checked abandoned buildings, and asked questions at the bus station. Officer Brady put together a missing person report with Sarah's school photo. Her face appeared on flyers all over town and in nearby communities. Local news ran the story, and people in 3 counties kept an eye out for the teenage girl. Sarah's best friend, Emma Clark, told police that Sarah had seemed different in the weeks before she vanished. "She kept talking about wanting more from life than this town could give her," Emma said. "But she never mentioned running away." A clerk at the town's only gas station remembered seeing Sarah the night before she disappeared. "She came in around 9 p.m. to buy a soda and some snacks," he said. Nothing seemed wrong. She was polite, like always. As days turned into weeks, hope began to fade. The police found no solid leads. No one had seen Sarah board a bus or get into a car. Her social media accounts showed no unusual activity before her disappearance and remained untouched after. Linda spent hours in Sarah's room, looking for any clue her daughter might have left behind. Tom drove to neighboring towns on weekends, showing Sarah's photo to strangers. Their younger son, Ethan, just 10 years old, couldn't understand why his sister would leave without saying goodbye. The first Christmas without Sarah was the hardest. Linda set a place for her at the dinner table, hoping for a miracle. Tom put up missing person flyers in new locations, refusing to give up. Ethan left cookies for his sister beside the Christmas tree. Officer Brady kept the case open, but with no new information, the investigation slowed. Some in town whispered that Sarah had simply chosen to leave, eager to start a new life somewhere else. Others feared something much worse had happened. By the 1-year mark of her disappearance, Sarah's case had gone cold. The Millers still lived in the same house, keeping Sarah's room unchanged, clinging to the hope that someday their phone would ring with news of their daughter. What no one in Pine Grove could possibly know was that Sarah's story was far from over, and that 19 years later, a startling discovery in a junkyard would bring long-buried secrets to light. 5 years passed since Sarah Miller disappeared from Pine Grove. The small town had changed in subtle ways. The old movie theater closed down, a new coffee shop opened on Main Street, and people spoke of Sarah less often. The Miller family struggled to find a new normal. Linda quit her job at the local bank, saying she couldn't focus with Sarah still missing. She spent most days at home, jumping whenever the phone rang. Tom worked longer hours at the construction company, finding comfort in physical labor that left him too tired to think. Young Ethan, now 15, grew quiet and serious. He kept Sarah's photo on his desk and sometimes wore her old Pine Grove High School sweatshirt. At school, other students knew not to ask about his sister. "Sometimes I can't remember her voice anymore," Ethan told Emma Clark, who had remained close to the Miller family. "I try to hear it in my head, but it's fading." Emma, now in college, visited the Millers whenever she came home. She brought cookies that Sarah used to like and sat with Linda looking through old photo albums. "Sarah would be 21 now," Linda said during one visit. "I wonder what she would look like." Officer Brady, now promoted to detective, kept Sarah's file in his desk drawer. Once a month, He reviewed the thin stack of leads and dead ends. On quiet evenings, he would call contacts in nearby states to ask about unidentified young women. Some cases just stick with you, Brady told his new partner. The Miller girl is mine. No closure for the family, no answers. Just gone. In 2008, 7 years after Sarah vanished, a development brought brief hope. A waitress in a diner 200 miles away reported serving a young woman who matched Sarah's description. The woman had the same heart-shaped birthmark on her wrist that Sarah had. Brady drove to the diner immediately. He interviewed the waitress and reviewed security footage. The young woman had similar features to Sarah, but her face was thinner, her movements more guarded. She had paid in cash and left no name. "I'm sorry," Brady told the Millers after showing them the grainy footage. "We don't think it's her." Linda collapsed in tears. Tom punched a hole in their living room wall. Ethan just went to his room and closed the door. As the 10th anniversary of Sarah's disappearance approached, the local newspaper ran a feature story. They interviewed the Millers, Brady, and Sarah's old teachers. The article brought renewed attention to the case, but no new leads emerged. The Millers received cards and flowers from townspeople who remembered. Some neighbors brought food. The high school held a small ceremony where they planted a tree in Sarah's memory. 10 years is a long time to wait for answers, Tom said during a rare interview, but we'll wait forever if we have to. Life in Pine Grove continued. Ethan graduated high school and left for college, though he called home more often than other students. Tom and Linda sold their house. The memories were too painful, and moved to a smaller place across town. Linda started volunteering at a center for troubled teens, finding purpose in helping young people who reminded her of Sarah. The 15th anniversary passed quietly. By then, many newer residents of Pine Grove had never heard of Sarah Miller. Her missing person posters, once everywhere, now hung only in the police station and the post office. Detective Brady approached retirement age but requested to stay on part-time. He wanted to keep working on cold cases, especially Sarah's. His hair had turned gray, but his determination remained. "Cases like this don't solve themselves," Brady told the new police chief. "Somewhere out there is the one piece of information we need. I'm not stopping until I find it." What Brady didn't know was that the crucial piece of evidence was sitting forgotten in an old vehicle at Howell's junkyard just outside of town, waiting to be discovered. Detective James Brady looked at the calendar on his office wall and sighed. Tomorrow marked exactly 20 years since Sarah Miller disappeared from Pine Grove. 20 years of dead ends and false hopes. 20 years of watching the Miller family suffer. Brady was 63 now. His hair had turned completely white, and he walked with a slight limp from an old injury. The police department had allowed him to stay on as a consultant for cold cases, though everyone expected him to retire soon. "Still working on the Miller case?" asked Officer Ramirez, a young cop who had been just a child when Sarah vanished. Brady nodded, looking down at the worn folder on his desk. "I made a promise to the family. I told them I wouldn't give up." The detective had kept in touch with Tom and Linda Miller over the years. He visited their home every few months, usually with nothing new to report but wanting to show them the case wasn't forgotten. Linda had aged the most visibly. Her once brown hair was now gray, and deep lines marked her face. She had turned Sarah's old bedroom into a memorial of sorts, keeping her daughter's favorite books and stuffed animals carefully arranged. Tom had become quieter over the years. He spoke less about Sarah, though Brady knew he still carried her photo in his wallet. Their son Ethan had moved to Chicago, started a family of his own, but called home weekly. "Tomorrow's the anniversary," Brady told Ramirez. "I'm visiting the Millers in the afternoon. 20 years feels like a milestone we never wanted to reach." That evening, Brady stayed late at the station, reviewing Sarah's file one more time. The initial report, the interviews with friends, the few tips that had come in over the years. He knew it all by heart. A part of him still believed Sarah might be alive somewhere, perhaps with a new identity, though logic told him otherwise. As Brady was about to leave, Chief Wilson stopped by his desk. "Jim, I know tomorrow's a hard day for you," the chief said. "But I wanted to let you know the department is assigning new resources to the Miller case." Brady looked up in surprise. "What kind of resources?" "The DNA database has expanded significantly. We're running Sarah's parents' samples against unidentified remains from the past 20 years. and we got approval for a new age progression image of Sarah to circulate. For the first time in years, Brady felt a spark of hope. Technology had advanced considerably since Sarah's disappearance. DNA testing that was once expensive and limited was now routine. Facial recognition software had improved. Digital records made it easier to track people across state lines. "Thank you, Chief," Brady said, his voice thick with emotion. "This means everything." That night, Brady couldn't sleep. He sat in his living room looking through his personal notes on the case. His wife Martha brought him tea and sat beside him. "You know, when Sarah first disappeared, Ethan was just 10 years old," Brady said. "Now he has a 10-year-old daughter of his own. All that time gone." Martha squeezed his hand. "You've done everything you could, James." "Not everything," Brady replied. "Not until we find her, or at least find out what happened." The next morning, Brady dressed carefully in his best suit. He picked up flowers for Linda and a bottle of Tom's favorite whiskey. Before heading to the Miller's house, he stopped at the station to check if any new information had come in. Officer Ramirez was waiting for him, an odd expression on his face. "Detective, there's been a development," Ramirez said. "A call just came in from Howell's junkyard on the edge of town. They were clearing out an old car for scrap metal and found something inside that you need to see." Brady's heart raced as he grabbed his coat. After 20 years of waiting, something was finally happening on Sarah Miller's case. What he didn't know was that the discovery at the junkyard would change everything they thought they knew about the night Sarah disappeared. Howell's junkyard sat on 10 acres of land at the edge of Pine Grove. Rusty cars, old appliances, and scrap metal created a maze of forgotten things. Joe Howell had owned the place for 30 years. His son Mike now ran the business after Joe's health declined. Detective Brady drove to the junkyard with Officer Ramirez. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as he turned onto the gravel road leading to the entrance. "What exactly did they find?" Brady asked. "They wouldn't say over the phone," Ramirez replied. "Just that it might be connected to the Miller case." Mike Howell was waiting for them by the office trailer. He was a large man with a thick beard and oil-stained work clothes. Brady had known him since he was a teenager. "Detective Brady," Mike nodded. "Thanks for coming so quickly." "What have you got, Mike?" Brady asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Mike led them through rows of crushed vehicles and piles of metal. "We've been clearing out the back section," he explained. "Some of these cars have been here since my dad started the business." They stopped in front of an old blue sedan. The paint was faded, and rust had eaten through parts of the body. The windows were dirty but intact. "This car came in around 2001, Mike said. "Never claimed. Dad was supposed to scrap it, but it got pushed to the back and forgotten." Brady felt his heart beat faster. 2001 was the year Sarah disappeared. "We were getting it ready for the crusher yesterday when Tommy, one of my workers, found something in the trunk," Mike continued. "I remembered the Miller case and called you right away." Mike opened the trunk. Inside was a worn backpack, dark blue with a faded logo. Brady recognized it immediately from the missing person report. Sarah Miller had been carrying this backpack when she vanished. With gloved hands, Brady carefully lifted the backpack. "We need to process this properly," he said to Ramirez. "Call the station for support." As they waited for more officers to arrive, Brady examined the car. It had no license plates, and the vehicle identification number had been partly scratched away. The interior was dusty, but showed no obvious signs of struggle. "Do you have records of who brought this car in?" Brady asked Mike. Mike shook his head. "Dad's old records aren't great. I know it was a cash deal, no paperwork. Dad was less strict about that stuff back then." When the crime scene unit arrived, they began processing the car thoroughly. They dusted for fingerprints, collected fibers, and photographed everything. Brady supervised, making sure no detail was missed. Inside the backpack, they found clothes that matched the description of what Sarah was wearing when she disappeared. A water bottle, a small notebook, and at the bottom, wrapped in a t-shirt, a disposable camera. "This could be crucial evidence," Brady told Ramirez. "The film might still be good." As they continued searching the car, an officer called Brady over to the back seat. "Detective, look at this." Wedged between the seats was a small photo. Brady picked it up carefully. It showed Sarah Miller standing in front of a motel sign. She looked nervous, her smile forced. The photo was dated September 15, 2001, the day after she disappeared. She was alive, Brady whispered. At least for one more day. Most surprising was the writing on the back of the photo. Help me. Not safe. He's watching. Brady felt a chill run down his spine. For 20 years, they had believed Sarah ran away by choice. This photo suggested something much darker. We need to find out who owned this car, Brady said firmly. And we need to develop that camera film right away. As the team worked, Brady stepped away to make a phone call. He had to tell the Millers about this discovery, but he also had to prepare them. Their daughter's story was about to take a turn no one had expected. After 20 years, the truth about Sarah Miller was finally beginning to emerge from the shadows. The Pine Grove police station buzzed with activity. After years of silence on the Sarah Miller case, the discovery at Howell's junkyard had brought new energy. Detective Brady set up a special room just for the investigation, pinning maps and photos to the walls. The disposable camera found in Sarah's backpack was their biggest hope. Brady personally took it to the photo lab in the next town. The technician looked doubtful when Brady handed him the 20-year-old camera. The film might be too degraded, the technician warned. But I'll do my best. Brady paced outside the lab for 3 hours. Finally, the technician emerged with a folder. You're lucky, he said. 7 pictures were still clear enough to develop. With shaking hands, Brady opened the folder. The first photo showed the Welcome to Pine Grove sign, taken from a moving car. The second was a gas station at night. The third showed Sarah in the passenger seat of a car, looking tired but calm. The fourth photo made Brady's heart stop. It showed a man, probably in his 30s, with dark hair and a small scar under his right eye. He was standing by the blue sedan they had found in the junkyard. The fifth photo was taken inside a motel room, showing the same man sleeping on a bed. The sixth photo was just darkness, as if taken by accident. But the seventh and final photo was the most disturbing. Sarah's face up close, tears in her eyes, with what looked like a hand gripping her shoulder. Brady rushed back to the station with the photos. Officer Ramirez and the team gathered around as he spread them out. This changes everything, Brady said. Sarah didn't run away, she was taken. The team worked quickly to scan the photos into their system. The man's face was run through facial recognition databases. The motel in the background was identified as the Roadside Inn, which had closed 10 years ago, but was located about 50 miles from Pine Grove. Brady dreaded his next task, showing these photos to Tom and Linda Miller. He drove to their house that evening, the folder heavy in his hands. The Millers sat close together on their couch as Brady carefully explained what they had found. Linda gasped when she saw the backpack, reaching out to touch it before Brady gently stopped her. It's still evidence, he explained. But I wanted you to see these photos. They're difficult, but they tell us more about what happened to Sarah. Linda covered her mouth with her hand as she looked at the photos. Tom's face hardened with each image. Who is he? Tom demanded, pointing at the man in the photos. Is he the one who took our daughter? We're working to identify him, Brady assured them. These photos are the breakthrough we've been waiting for. Ethan Miller had flown in from Chicago after hearing about the discovery. He stood behind his parents, his face pale as he looked at photos of the sister he had barely known. She was trying to document what was happening, Ethan said quietly. She was leaving us a trail to follow. Brady nodded. The last photo and the note we found suggest she was in danger and knew it. She was trying to call for help. Why didn't she just come home? Linda asked, her voice breaking. We don't know yet, Brady said gently, but we're going to find out. As Brady was leaving, Tom stopped him at the door. 20 years, he said. 20 years we thought she just didn't want to be with us anymore. That she chose to leave. Brady put his hand on Tom's shoulder. Now we know that wasn't true, and I promise you, we won't stop until we find out exactly what happened to Sarah. Back at the station, Officer Ramirez was waiting with news. The facial recognition system had found a possible match for the man in the photos. His name is Robert Tanner, Ramirez said, and he has a history of targeting young girls. Brady felt a surge of determination. After 20 years, they finally had a name and a face to pursue. Detective Brady stared at the face on his computer screen. Robert Tanner, age 53, had a long criminal record. He had been arrested multiple times for fraud, theft, and harassment. Most disturbing were two cases involving teenage girls in the late 1990s, though both cases had been dropped when the witnesses refused to testify. "We need to find him," Brady told his team during their morning meeting. "Check his last known address, talk to his family, look at prison records. Someone must know where he is." Officer Ramirez discovered that Tanner had been released from Riverside State Prison 3 years ago after serving time for identity theft. His parole officer reported that Tanner had completed his supervision period and was no longer required to check in. His last address was an apartment in Springfield, Ramirez said, about 2 hours from here. Brady and Ramirez drove to Springfield that afternoon. The apartment building was in a run-down neighborhood. Tanner's old apartment was now occupied by a young couple who knew nothing about the previous tenant. The building manager remembered Tanner. Quiet guy, kept to himself. Paid his rent in cash. Left about a year ago, said he was moving to take care of his sick mother. "Did he mention where his mother lived?" Brady asked. The manager shook his head. "Nope, but he got mail sometimes from someone in Carson City." Carson City was a small town about 50 miles in the opposite direction from Pine Grove. Brady and Ramirez headed there next. They checked tax records, property listings, and utility accounts, finally finding a house registered to Edith Tanner, Robert's mother. The house was small and well kept, with flowers growing in the front yard. An elderly woman answered the door. "Mrs. Tanner?" Brady asked, showing his badge. "I'm Detective Brady from Pine Grove. We're looking for your son, Robert." Edith Tanner's face hardened. "What has he done now?" Brady explained they needed to speak with Robert about an ongoing investigation, careful not to mention Sarah's name. "Bobby doesn't live here," Edith said. "He visits sometimes to bring groceries. Says he's working on a fishing boat now, comes and goes." "When did you last see him?" Ramirez asked. "About 2 weeks ago. He seemed nervous, said he might need to go away for a while." Brady left his card with Mrs. Tanner, asking her to call if Robert appeared. As they walked back to their car, Ramirez looked troubled. "He knows something's up," Ramirez said. "The timing is too perfect. Right after we found the car, he's planning to disappear." "Someone tipped him off," Brady agreed. "But who?" "Nobody knew about the car except us and the junkyard crew." They drove back to Pine Grove in silence, both thinking about the same possibility. Someone connected to the investigation might be helping Tanner. Back at the station, Brady ordered a complete background check on everyone who worked at Howell's junkyard. One name jumped out: Tommy Jenkins, the worker who had found Sarah's backpack. His sister had been married to Robert Tanner's cousin 20 years ago. "It could be a coincidence," Ramirez said. "I stopped believing in coincidences a long time ago," Brady replied. Brady brought Tommy Jenkins in for questioning the next morning. Tommy was nervous, his hands shaking as he lit a cigarette outside the station. "I didn't do anything wrong," Tommy insisted. "I'm the one who found the backpack, remember? If I was involved, why would I report it?" "Maybe you didn't know what was in the car," Brady suggested. "Maybe you only realized it after we started investigating. Then you made a phone call to warn someone." Tommy's face paled. "I didn't call anyone, I swear." Brady pushed harder. "Phone records don't lie, Tommy. We know you called Carson City the night after we found the backpack." Finally, Tommy broke down. "Okay, I called Bobby, but I didn't know about any kidnapping. He paid my dad to store that car 20 years ago, said it was for a friend who would pick it up later. When you guys started investigating, I got scared." "Where is he now?" Brady demanded. Tommy hesitated. "He has a cabin by Lake Marshall. That's all I know, I swear." Brady and Ramirez raced out of the station. Lake Marshall was just 90 minutes away. After 20 years of searching for answers about Sarah Miller, they were finally closing in on the truth. Lake Marshall stretched wide and blue against the mountains. In autumn, the surrounding forest turned golden and red. Hidden among the trees stood a dozen cabins, most used only during summer months. This late in the season, the area was nearly empty. Detective Brady and Officer Ramirez parked their car half a mile from the cabin Tommy had described. They didn't want to alert Tanner to their presence. Brady called for backup, but the nearest officers were 30 minutes away. "We should wait," Ramirez suggested, looking at the path ahead. Brady shook his head. "If Tanner's planning to run, we might not get another chance." They approached the cabin carefully. It was small and weathered, with dark windows and a rickety porch. No car was visible, but a thin line of smoke rose from the chimney. "Someone's home," Brady whispered. They split up, Ramirez circling to the back while Brady approached the front door. With his gun ready, Brady knocked loudly. "Pine Grove Police, open up." Silence answered him. Brady knocked again, harder this time. Suddenly, he heard a crash from inside, followed by rapid footsteps. A back door slammed. "He's running," Brady shouted, rushing around the side of the cabin. Ramirez was already in pursuit, chasing a figure through the trees. Brady followed as fast as his 63-year-old legs could carry him. Ahead, Ramirez tackled the running man to the ground. Brady caught up, breathing hard. The man on the ground wasn't Robert Tanner. He was younger, maybe 30, with long hair and a scruffy beard. "Who are you?" Brady demanded. "Jason Wilkes," the man said, his voice shaking. "I'm just staying here. I didn't do anything wrong." They brought Jason back to the cabin. Inside, the place was messy, but showed signs of long-term habitation. Food in the cupboards, clothes in the closet, fishing gear by the door. "Where's Robert Tanner?" Brady asked. Jason looked confused. "Who?" "This is my uncle's cabin. I've been staying here since I lost my job. Check my ID." Jason's identification confirmed his story. Brady and Ramirez searched the cabin thoroughly, but found nothing connecting it to Tanner or Sarah Miller. "Tommy Jenkins lied to us," Ramirez said, frustration clear in his voice. Brady nodded, but something didn't feel right. He walked around the cabin again, looking more carefully. Behind a stack of firewood, he noticed a small shed he had missed before. The shed door was locked. Brady broke it open with a swift kick. Inside, the space was empty except for a metal lockbox on the floor. Brady used a pocket knife to force it open. The box contained several IDs with different names, the same photo of Robert Tanner. There were also bundles of cash, a gun, and a small notebook. Most important was a stack of photos. The first photo showed Sarah Miller, clearly several years older than when she disappeared. She looked thin and sad, standing in front of another cabin. The background suggested it wasn't near Lake Marshall. She was alive, Brady said softly, years after she disappeared. Other photos showed different young women, all looking unhappy, all with the same man in the background, Robert Tanner. The notebook contained addresses, names, and dates spanning 20 years. Brady flipped through it quickly, stopping when he saw Pine Grove, Sarah M., written on one page, along with a date matching her disappearance. "He kept records," Brady said. "This could help us find all his victims." Jason Wilkes appeared in the doorway of the shed. "I found something else," he said nervously. "Under the floorboards in the bedroom. I didn't know it was there, I swear." Jason led them back to the cabin and pointed to a loose board he had discovered. Brady pulled it up, revealing a small space containing a plastic bag. Inside were more photos and a driver's license for Sarah Tanner, with Sarah Miller's face, but an address in Montana. "He made her use his name," Ramirez said, disgusted. Brady checked the date on the license. It had been issued 5 years after Sarah disappeared and had expired 10 years ago. "We need to find out what happened in Montana," Brady said. "And we need to find Tanner before he disappears again." As if answering his words, Brady's phone rang. It was the station. "Detective, we just got a report. Robert Tanner was spotted at the bus station in Carson City 20 minutes ago. Officers are on their way, but—" "He's running," Brady finished. "Tell them to stop him at all costs. This man has answers we've been looking for 20 years." The hunt for Robert Tanner, and the truth about Sarah Miller, was reaching its climax. Robert Tanner sat in the interrogation room at Pine Grove Police Station. At 53, his dark hair had gray streaks, and the scar under his right eye had faded. His hands were cuffed to the table. Officers had caught him buying a bus ticket to Canada. Detective Brady entered the room slowly, carrying a thick folder. 20 years of searching had led to this moment. He placed Sarah Miller's photos on the table one by one. "We know what you did," Brady said, his voice steady. "We found the car. We found the cabin. We found the records you kept of all the girls." Tanner stared at the wall, refusing to look at the photos. "Sarah Miller was 16 when you took her," Brady continued. "Her family has spent 20 years wondering what happened to their daughter." For a long moment, silence filled the room. Finally, Tanner spoke. "I didn't hurt her," he said quietly. "Not like you think." "Then tell me what happened," Brady said, sitting down across from him. Tanner sighed. "I met her at the gas station that night. She was crying, said she wanted to leave town. I'd offered her a ride." Brady's eyes narrowed. "And then you kept her against her will?" "No," Tanner insisted. "Not at first. She wanted to go with me," said her father. He paused. "Said her father was hurting her." Brady remembered the note they'd found. "Help me. Not safe. He's watching." He had assumed it referred to Tanner. "You're lying," Brady said, trying to blame her father. "Check her diary," Tanner replied. "The one in the backpack. She wrote it all down." Back in his office, Brady carefully examined Sarah's diary. The pages confirmed what Tanner had said. Sarah had written about abuse at home, about her father's anger and threats. The final entry described her plan to run away. Brady felt sick. For 20 years, they had focused on the wrong story. "What happened after you left Pine Grove?" Brady asked when he returned to the interrogation room. "We traveled together for a few months," Tanner explained. "I was on parole, had warrants. Having her around made me look normal. Then she started wanting to go home, to see her brother. I couldn't let her do that." "So you kept her prisoner," Brady said. Tanner looked down. "I kept her close. Made her use my last name. We moved a lot. Montana, Oregon, Nevada. She tried to run twice. After that, I was more careful." "Where is she now?" Brady asked, the question he had waited 20 years to answer. Tanner's eyes filled with tears. 5 years ago, she got sick, really sick. I couldn't take her to a hospital. They'd ask questions. By the time I realized how bad it was, his voice trailed off. "You let her die," Brady said, his voice tight with anger. "Pneumonia," Tanner whispered. "I buried her behind the cabin in Montana. I can show you where." 3 days later, Brady stood in a small clearing behind an abandoned cabin in Montana. Forensic teams had recovered remains that dental records confirmed belonged to Sarah Miller. She had lived 11 years after her disappearance, dying at age 27. The hardest task of Brady's career was telling the Millers the complete truth. Tom and Linda sat together on their couch, holding hands as Brady explained what they had learned. "Sarah's diary contained things she never told you," Brady said gently. "She wrote about abuse in this home." Linda gasped. "That's not possible. Tom would never." Tom's face had gone white. "Not me," he whispered. "My brother. He lived with us that summer. He would watch Sarah when we were at work." The final pieces fell into place. Sarah had run from one nightmare into another. A week later, the Miller family buried Sarah in Pine Grove Cemetery. The headstone read, "Sarah Miller, 1985 to 2012, finally home." Detective Brady stood at the back of the funeral, watching as Ethan placed flowers on his sister's grave. After 20 years, Sarah's story had ended. Not with the happy reunion they had once hoped for, but with truth and closure. As Brady walked away from the cemetery, he thought of all the photos that had led them here. The old picture in the junkyard, the images from the disposable camera, the records of a life stolen and lost. Each one a piece of the puzzle that had taken 20 years to complete. Some mysteries, Brady reflected, were solved too late for justice, but never too late for truth.